January 28, 1986, NASA ordered the launch of their third space shuttle in their fleet, Challenger. 1 minute into the flight, there was a small engine fire, and there was a pretty big explosion. And the entire shuttle was pretty much lost, except for kind of the cockpit, but it's kind of neither here or there. But the disaster lost the lives of 7 crewmates, including what would have been the first African American, Asian American woman and teacher in space. And obviously this was very devastating. And in 1986, the president was none other than Ronald Reagan himself. And obviously being the president and having so many people watching, he would have to address what went wrong. So Reagan was the 40th president of the United States. He was kind of known as a great speaker. He was able to talk to people very well, and that's why they gave him the nickname the Great Communicator. And not saying for sure, but statistically, he was one of the most popular presidents in history. So take that as you will. Now, the location of this speech was in the Oval Office. It took place what was supposed to be addressed to the Union, but then he canceled that just so he could do this speech. And it was televised to the whole country just so that everyone could see it and they wouldn't have to travel a distance to watch him talk in person.
The Space Shuttle Challenger honored us for the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey, waved goodbye, and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God. Thank you.
Oh, that was just kind of a short clip. It was really the most powerful part of the speech. It's the part that most people remember just because of that last line there. And significance in history, obviously it was the first disaster that NASA ever really had, and it kind of dampened people's spirits on wanting to go to space. Reagan was able to only use his words and not in front of anybody except for maybe the camera crew, but he wasn't able to feel the audience or whatever, so he really just had to rely on his own words to feel what was right to say. And he was able to explain what happened, and he was able to kind of have people keep faith in NASA and not wanting people to yell at him to shut down their space program. And while we'll endure, obviously it was a great tragedy, and it was very well known for having people calm down and not feel so sad. And other presidents like Bush and Obama have took inspiration from it during disasters like 9/11 and the Boston bombing and just the whole shebang with ISIS. It was, yeah. So obviously people still talk about it when talking about speeches on tragedy. Okay, ethos, pathos, and logos. Obviously ethos, he establishes credibility right in the beginning because he's the president, and he basically says you can trust him and you can listen to him because he's their president. They vote him in for a reason. And pathos, he says a lot that he mourns with the citizens. He feels their sorrow because he was watching too. He didn't want anything to happen to them, but it did. And logos, he would often say that even though it happened, it was still the crewmates' jobs, and they weren't afraid to do it, and they were still very brave for wanting to do their job even though it went wrong. Okay, rhetorical devices. Kind of messed up the picture, but okay. Analogy. Reagan, near the end of his speech, would kind of compare the Challenger crew to Sir Francis Drake, and he was a person, an adventurer, I guess you could say, that went around, attempted to go around the world, and in the process, he kind of died on his own boat, on his own expedition, and it just happened to be the exact same day. I think it was 300 years prior to the Challenger explosion. And imagery, the very last line that he says, as they waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God. Obviously they didn't really touch the face of God, but it kind of dumbed down something that just felt very painful and tragic, and he made it sound kind of almost beautiful, really. And repetition, he would, throughout his entire speech, he would always talk about the 7 crewmates, the 7 passengers, 7 tragedies, 7 mourning families, and yeah, he would refer to 7 quite a bit. So in summary, Reagan's ability to pretty much calm the nation down with nobody really in front of him, using only his words, showing many presidents after him how to speak on difficult topics such as big tragedies and lives lost in your country. And he was really able to comfort many people that needed something to feel good about, because in the middle of the Cold War and everything, and then a big explosion, losing people that you kind of followed for a long time. And yeah.